Shalom, Kol Halal Yahweh Bashem Awashai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be among the heathen nations, the Israelite foreigners, looking like the heathens. And to the Akwath that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago. Once again, this lesson will be put up on the channel Malcolm because GMS Maccabean Spirit Ba is on timeout for another 5 or 6 days over a video that was done like 6 months ago. And, well, you already know the drill. You don't have to break any guidelines. Well, telling the truth is breaking guidelines, especially when it goes against their narrative, even when their narrative is completely and totally and apparently a lie. But this is a video called Why No One Wants to Be a Cop in America. And there's a couple things that came to mind. And the first one was the book of Acts in the 18th chapter. You know, when the Israelites were told to leave, and I'm going to read that, but when the Israelites were kicked out of Rome because of aggressive street teaching, when you look into the history, all right, what they called aggressive street teaching, by teaching our people who we are, all right, and you're looking at the police, the militarized police, then you have to understand, lots of Israelites were part of the Roman army and centurions and guard. All right, just like Cornelius of the Italian band. You know, you had Timotheus or Timothy. A lot of Greeks that were actually Hebrews. Something that the modern church and people like T.M. Malone and Dr. James White, the Edomite, you know, like to leave out. And we're going to touch on scriptures, you know, and touch on that history. But first, I'm going to play like a minute and a half of this video first. All right. All right. And when playing that, because you have to get the understanding that, remember, the NFL was hired. T.M. Malone, or as you know, his vocab, Amalek Malone, was hired by the NFL to go in and talk to the football players. Why? Because of this mass awakening, the mass awakening of the Israelites. Okay, he's trying to brainwash them back into Christianism and get away from their Hebrew Israelite heritage. All right, and you know, lullaby them back to sleep. Okay, and many of them will, because they're $1 million contracts, or you know, even if they're a second or third string player, you know, their contracts in place on the team in most cases is more important than their heritage and salvation and getting the kingdom and having 1 billion times more than whatever they're worth on that contract. That that's more important to them because they can't see that. But without any further ado, let's let some of this video play.
Country's law enforcement is a respectable job. It's understandable why. You fight crime and you protect civilians, almost like a hero without a cape. But in the United States, it's a bit more complicated. Last year, American cops were accused of brutality and racism. They came to represent everything that was wrong with the United States.
And this is so true to a lot of people, and not just Jake, but even you have other heathens and Edomites that feel this way as well. And when I was a child, they had a thing programmed that they called Officer Friendly. And even back then, Officer Friendly wasn't so friendly, you know, not to the older Jakes that were, you know, 14, 15, 16, 17, you know, and in their early 20s. But they would have the police officers come to the school, and it was a highly respectable job and everything, you know. And I had my aunt was married to a couple cops. She divorced one and married another one. So I had cops in the family. You know, it was a highly respectable thing, and they were looked up to. Then you had the television shows where the cops were the heroes. But now you see them, even in the movies now, the cops are shown how they really are, dirty. You know, often in control of the street scene. They're the actually leaders of these street gangs and cliques, you know, or the street gangs report to them. I mean, and that's just art imitating life. Why? Because that sort of thing goes on. I mean, I can only imagine how many scandals we could just start Googling, pulling up what cops are involved in human trafficking, involved in drugs, and have done murders, or had paid for gangbangers to do murders. I've seen cops collect money from gangbangers with my own eyes over in an area in Chicago that's referred to as Little Beirut, over there in the 80s, over there over east by the lake. They call that area Beirut. All right, and I've seen cops roll up on a street dude slinging stuff on the corner and get his fee, basically his protection fee. All right, and then sometimes, and this is true, it has happened. It's right here. It's happened right here in Chicago, where cops are still gang affiliated. And guess what? I got friends that grew up with me. All right, that are police officers, and they smoked weed, still smoke weed while they were on the police force. You know, some of them gangbanged, some of them didn't. But nevertheless, I know these people. I know them very well. I grew up with these people. So this is not just me speaking about something that I don't know. All right. And the funny thing, out of this particular group, one of them, who probably was the cleanest of these particular, and none of these are like, they're all family people now, you know, and they you know, typical Jakes into the world, eat pork and do bullshit and commit adultery and all that. But you know, as far as being grimy and dirty, they left that life alone. But nevertheless, they were involved in such activities, you know, when they were younger. A few of them were, and a few of them weren't. All right. So I'm not speaking from a point of something that I don't know what I'm talking about. This is something I've seen with my own eyes. And there has been cases right here in Chicago and in other cities, I'm sure, where there's been sting operations, and they find out that it was policemen at the charge of the whole thing, because it's happened right here in Chicago, where groups of cops have gone to jail for their ties to street gangs and drug dealing and all that sort of thing. So what she's saying is very true, and even more so than what she's saying.
So youngsters are now rethinking a career in law enforcement. They do not want to be cops. Here's a report.
America's finest are in a recruitment dearth. Between a wave of police brutality and calls to defund the police.
And I find it too, is, you know, that all the background in recruitment, well, a lot of them are Jake. Same thing when I was recruited into the Marine Corps. All right, my recruiter was a Jake. All right, recruited one of my high school buddies. He came in right behind me. We actually used to go visit each other in boot camp. We told him we were cousins because we, you know, it's funny because we did kind of look alike. But, you know, they used to actually allow us to go, you know, I used to be able to go to his barracks on Sundays and go, you know, spend a few minutes with him. You know, because I went in, I think a month before him. So he was a month behind me. You know, we just kind of, you know, and it was comforting, you know, to have somebody that, you know, that was so close to me there. We kind of pumped each other up. And then we would see each other, you know, when we would be out doing our, you know, daily things. But it's just, I just find it, you know, it's not strange that they're using Jake to get Jake.
Turns out nobody wants to be a cop anymore.
I think this is probably one of the most challenging times the profession as a whole has seen as it relates to.
Now, Rodney Bryant, let's just call him Alchemist. We're going to read about Alchemist in the Bible because he was an Israelite, all right, in the book of Maccabees. And they're going to show you a female recruiter or a police person, involved individual. We're going to call her Bacchides. They're both in the book of 1 Maccabees, the 7th chapter.
Recruitment.
Officer morale is at an all-time low. cops have become public enemy number one, the symbol of a racist, violent America. It's not a symbol officers want to associate with.
Now, even the police chief right now in Chicago made a public statement on how his own father told him, "Why do you want to be a part of an organization that oppresses your people?" And that's exact. Now, you have to remember, the police department, all right, was modeled after, or was the continuation of the slave patrol. And they treated the people as such. All right. Because prior to the release of the Negro slaves from prior to their, I won't say their freedom, to their emancipation, because being emancipated and being free are two different things. So they tell that lie continually all the time. Well, the slaves were free. No, you weren't. You were emancipated. And so look up what emancipated mean. I'm not even going to go into it. All right. But when you were emancipated, not freed, the police departments were formed then. So that all the new laws that they put could put you right back in slavery if you violated all these new laws that they put in place. The 13th Amendment being the number one thing. Hence the reason why all the prison houses are full. And they're privately owned. So for everybody in there, somebody's making money. So the prison owners and the people who invest in the prisons, they want to make sure that they use your own to police you and to gather you up to ensure that their prison houses stay full. All right. You know, there's a scripture in Isaiah, I believe the 42nd chapter, that speaks about that. How this is the people robbed. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. I can find that if... I think it's 42. Perfect. I was correct. This is Isaiah 42 and 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are all hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. And this is true. We're spoiled and we're delivered, and then the courts and the law operates in a manner to where they ignore our rights and our freedoms, and et cetera, et cetera. You got guys all the time that get exonerated from crimes based upon evidence that was falsified or placed, and then DNA, and so many guys have been exonerated because of DNA. Sadly, though, it's 10, 15, 20, and sometimes 30, 40 years later. So that means that someone made money off of them all those years occupying one of those cells. So guess what? When these things sort of happen, if the shareholders were forced to give back all the money that they made off those individuals, it wouldn't happen so much.
So they are leaving en masse. Some departments reported 45% more retirements this year, and the next generation is hesitant to step in. Hardly surprising, since they've grown up seeing police brutality. It's a departure from decades of American obsession with law enforcement.
It's hard to recruit the very people that are seeing police as an opposition.
That made it hard.
Okay, so, these people are totally greeked out. Because we're not supposed to put the razors to our skins, the tattoos, which, we've all made those sort of mistakes in the past. But, yeah, but let's go to the scriptures. This is the book of Acts. Just make a comparison to what's in the past, because with it, we'll all come back and people tend to fall right back into their lot. If you are a righteous man, your spirit is going to be a righteous spirit. You're not going to just be some you may fall and make your mistakes, but you're always going to come back around to Yahweh Bashem and Shah. The Lord plans it that way. Now, who's to say that this police officer right here, well, this isn't Linda. This clicked over to this guy. Her name just happened to still get caught in the freeze frame. But then again, let's take it back. Linda did look like a damn man. You know, what the hell, man? What is this? See, an emasculated woman and a demasculated man. This is ridiculous. All right. So in embracing and just wearing her wool, you know, she's boldly wearing her curse, man. But here we go. It says, Acts 18:1, it said, after these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth. All right. So Paul and the disciples and the Israelites were in Greece and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately came from Italy. All right. So all throughout Rome, all throughout Italy, all throughout Europe, the Israelites were there. They were far from Jerusalem at this time. They were scattered to the four corners of the earth. And with his wife Priscilla, because the Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome and came unto them. And when you look into the history of what happened, this is in secular history, the Jews were on the street corners, and they even showed an image of them gathered together the same way we do in garments, teaching the kingdom of Yahushua, teaching that the kingdom of the Lord is at hand. And that was an aggravation to the powers that be. All right. And eventually it all worked, because guess what? All those law enforcement, militarized, Greekish, Hellenized Israelites who were Hellenized, okay, eventually under the guidance of